All right, good morning, everybody. Greetings and salutations to everybody out there in all of YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you all for taking a little time out of your morning on this Saturday to joining us here for another Lions Talk Live. If you haven't yet subscribed Lions Talk Live, why not? Uh, we're gonna make a push to try to get to 4,300 by kickoff against the Chargers. So if you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Also, while you're watching the video, if you would just take a second, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, like button, whatever you want to call it button. That would help out a lot. I'm sure most of you know all this stuff if you've watched YouTube for a while, so I'm not going to bore you with it. But before we get into everything, I'm going to throw something at you guys because you know what? I do have a career. I do have a job. And other than trying to provide some daily content for you guys on YouTube, I sell houses. Or property, I should say. So if you're looking to buy property in the state of Michigan, or if you want wisdom on your property or purchase of a property in another state, don't be afraid to call me or text me. I can try to refer you to somebody. I've had a lot of you reach out from other states, even a few from other countries. And I can definitely try to reach you out to refer you to somebody on your behest. But as far as the state of Michigan, if you want to work with me, you see my phone number on the screen, 269-998-2384. To be fair, quite a few of you have called me or text me. I'll work on your half and try to save you money whether you're purchasing or selling property. So give me a call. Do commercial real estate, residential real estate, vacant land, the whole shebang and bang. All right. Today's topics, basically you probably saw it in the thumbnail. What do the Lions do on a day off or a weekend off? So I thought I'd go into that a little bit, talk a little bit about basically what's it like to work in a front office. In tomorrow's video or tomorrow morning show, thought I'd try to walk you guys through the life of a general manager. Maybe I should have done that today, but we'll get it tomorrow. All right, let's get over to the comments section. I see people are here already, so let's get you guys going. Bill, what do you got? Greetings and salutations. Just do it. Yes, correct. Just do it. Virgil, wasn't sure you're having show day. Good morning to the Duke Group. Good morning. Yeah, I try to get on here every day. So even during the off season or whatever, I'll still come on here and we can always find something to talk about. I did want to, like I said, tomorrow's show, try to talk to you guys maybe about the life of a coach or general manager, at least from my experiences. I can't speak for everybody, just from my time doing different jobs in general managing of a franchise or coaching franchises. So figure we throw that at you guys. Brittany, what do you got? Coach Dan, what are some things the team is doing on a weekend off like this? Well, talk about that. How are they preparing for the next game if they do it all? So let's walk into that. So we've got obviously the weekend off. Most of the players should begin returning either today or tomorrow. They've had since Tuesday off basically. I don't think most of them would have skipped town Monday night after the game, but Tuesday, yeah, probably around noon they would have been released, to take off and go do whatever. So as far as what they're doing now, the coaches more than likely probably come Friday they started returning to their duties, going through a game film, looking for tendencies. You guys all probably know about the stuff with Michigan and alleged sign stealing and all that stuff. But, I will say this, in my years of coaching, that stuff happens all the time. So the fact that ESPN or whoever came up with this story, I mean, I get, ESPN's struggling financially. And I can say this from someone who's a stock person and, I don't look at their books or anything. I can just tell you, Disney isn't what it used to be, and they are a struggling company, so they're looking for news stories. But with that being said, and I probably went off a little bit off the rails there, but so coaches are going to look from the coaching cams views, plus they're all going to talk and gather what has this particular coach that you're going to face, whether they were at this franchise before or in the past. I mean, some coaches will go back 5-10 years going through, especially when they have extended time frames like this, looking for tendencies, formations, calls, similarities, anything they can to get an advantage. I mean, I'm a coach and I can tell you my team season is still, I don't know, about a month away from kicking off. And I've been watching game tape on the first two teams we play for probably about 3 months. And, mind you, I'm listening for calls, player tendencies. What's this player doing in this situation? And I'm just one person. When you got an entire staff that can be devoted to it, and then assistants and everything, they're going to be pretty well versed on anything the Chargers want to do. And I'm just using the Chargers as an example since that's our next game. But yeah, that's what you want to. I guess I should have just said that. You want an answer what they're doing this weekend? That's what they're doing. The players, I mean, they're working on healing, getting their body healthy, some emotional or mental relaxation, because really the break goes by very fast. And whether you're talking this sport or other sports, the breaks don't last very long. Really, by the time you get somewhere, kind of unpack, unwind for a day or two, it's almost time to come back. So great question there. Great question. All right, Big Eddie, greetings and salutations, everyone. Made a live show. Congrats, man. Glad you made it. I know sometimes you can't always, but hey, you just pop in whenever you can, man. Mike, what do you got? Morning, coach. Got any breakdowns of the Chargers yet? A little bit. I haven't done a ton with them, but I did begin watching some of their stuff. So let's talk about, you guys know I like to start with the lines, offensive line, defensive line, how they perform. Their offensive line, which is probably going to be our more focus, I would think, based on how we match up with things. I don't think they're great between the tackles. Their tackles, I would say this, I think the Lions have better tackles than the Chargers. Now, and that's no disrespect to the Chargers tackles. I think they're good. I think the Lions simply are better. But if you look at the interior of that Chargers line, I don't think it's as sound as Detroit's. And you guys probably already know, I don't think our interior offensive line has performed nearly as well as probably most would have anticipated. So starting with that, I think we can do a lot of things from a schematic principle like we had against the Raiders or the Falcons. And there's probably a couple other teams I'm not thinking of this early in the morning that we can get pressure on Herbert. Now, with that being said, Herbert's athletic. He's no Michael Vick or anything like that, but he can get out and escape. And he's got a pretty good arm. He's got a cannon. I'm not going to say it's Stafford quality, but it's up there. So the biggest thing we're going to want to see is how does Aaron Glenn handle this? There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing on tape. I understand Aaron Glenn likes to do the horseshoe, try to contain a mobile quarterback. The problem with that is, we'll just use the Ravens game as an example. When a quarterback starts lighting up because they've got considerable time to drop back and pass, that's a problem. And Aaron Glenn, this coaching staff, like we've talked about on Lions Talk Live, really struggles sometimes, I think, with breaking their game plan. You came in with this idea. The team is getting beat with that idea. Are you going to make a change? And really, using the Ravens game as an example, they never really made a change or any kind of adjustments to that principle until, in my opinion, third quarter. They came out out of halftime and still stuck with it. After that, they finally abandoned it. So I think in order to beat the Chargers, we're going to have to get after Herbert. You can't do the horseshoe, try to just contain him from a mobility standpoint and just try to say, hey, pick us apart, because he will pick you apart. The receivers, as you guys know, Allen and some of the other guys, they run pretty good routes, and they will get open against last year, we were mostly a man-to-man coverage team. This year, we've become actually mostly a zone coverage team. And we do mix in some man, but mostly zone. The problem with the zones is the more time you give receivers to run their routes, the more field is going to be open to them, because the zones have to expand so much as some players progress deeper down the field. So, Mike, I probably went on way too long with this, and sorry. I'm just going to say this. You're going to have to get after Herbert. If you can't put pressure on him, then our defense is going to get chewed up. Offensively for us, I'm going to say this. I think we can have some success against their defense. Their defense is good. It's just not great. It's not like the Ravens, or heck, I would say it's not the Seattle Seahawks. It's probably closer to the Green Bay Packers type level. So that means you got some players. Some people can do some things. It's just players that I think you can pick on with this offense, because let's be fair to the Detroit Lions offense. They've got some parts. They've got some weapons. They come after you. So I do believe we'll see a lot of play action because of what everybody just saw Gibbs do. I'm guessing, but I don't know, that Montgomery will be back for this game. So if you do that, that also sets up play action, and you've got a plethora of weapons. Yeah, I'm busting out big words this morning. A plethora of weapons that obviously, if Goff has time, he's going to chew you up with it. So yeah, I went on way too long for that, but I'll break him down more and more in the upcoming week. Hey Phil, good morning. Greetings and salutations, doers. All right, doers. Hey, and good morning to you, Phil. By the way, Sosimo, do crew, love it. Yes, you gotta love the do. Hopefully, he's got a kick out of the do in the Circle K in the thumbnail. Doug Laporta. What will we have to do to stop Herbert? So we're going to have to put pressure on him for sure. I'm going to say this. Because he is a little bit mobile, you got to show him some respect with that. So I am anticipating a few more interior stunts. So basically, we'll just start with the two guys nearest the center. One is going to block at the center. The other one is going to loop around. I'm assuming most of you know what a stunt is, but I mean, if you don't, hey, there's a quick way to review it. So one blocks down, the other loops around, and that forces the 2 or 3 nearest offensive linemen to have to negotiate who's going actually with the guy that's coming at the center. That's going to occupy typically 2 people. And if somebody doesn't come off to get the guy looping, then that looper has a free pass at the quarterback, free break run at the quarterback. I also anticipate, because you do have a mobile quarterback, you're going to see some stunts where the inside of our defense line goes outward, trying again, same principle, and allow people to come, someone like Hutchinson or whoever's going to be on the other side. I guess the last couple of games have been Jack Campbell, to loop inside. The problem with that scenario is, while you get faster guys going up the middle at the quarterback, there's nobody. If the quarterback gets out and breaks the line, there's nobody unless you're pulling somebody from the linebackers or from the secondary to pick them up, which means you could have a free pass at running. It's nothing against our interior line that they couldn't get out there, but those guys just typically aren't as fleet as foot as some of your defensive ends or linebackers. So I am anticipating we'll see some of that to get pressure on them. Aaron Glenn doesn't like to blitz a ton this year, at least. And to his credit, when he's sent a 5th and 6th person, he's caused some problems for teams because he's done a fairly good job of masking it. The only thing I could really pick on with AG and some of his blitzes like that is sometimes that 6th guy is a very delayed blitzer. And the problem is, if you go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then you get blitzing, it takes about, basically 4 seconds to get to that quarterback. And I don't know about you guys, but I think most NFL quarterbacks, you give them 4 seconds, they're going to get rid of the ball. So those are at least a couple of things for us to pay attention to going to next week. I'll try to provide a little bit more information throughout the week, but we still got over a week to go. All right, Phil, hit him. Yes, hit him, knock him down, beat him up, drop an elbow, do whatever you got to do. You got to put shots on him. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but you do need to rattle them. You can tell the difference in just about any NFL quarterback. Once they've gotten hit a couple times, that accuracy starts getting a little off. The reads get a little bit faster. I mean, there's very, very few of them, once you've hit them a couple times, that they're not impacted emotionally from it. Herbert, still a little bit younger. He is a proven player, but I would say this. He's one of the ones that if you can hit him, you can rattle him emotionally a bit. All right, Phil, what do you got? Lockdown on receivers because no one runs on RD. Yeah, I would say that. You're going to force them into being fairly one-dimensional, I would anticipate. The big problem just becomes blocking them up. Jerry Jacobs, I think we all should recognize he's done a pretty good job this year, probably better than anybody would have guessed coming into this thing. He's done an admirable job, and you can see the impact it made when he went out for 1 game against the Ravens. Now, I get that also means the person you're bringing in to replace him is Will Harris. But let's get into that another time. He's done very well. Sutton, I think we all gets done very well. Kirby Joseph, he hasn't been as impactful as last year, but he hasn't played bad. He's been caught. The only real downside I would say with him is there have been a couple games where he's been caught kind of out of position on some deeper shots that you could just tell he wasn't anticipating it. But let's also be fair to him. He's also only a second-year player. He hasn't seen it all and been through it all. He is developing. Tracy Walker, while he wasn't anticipating being a starter this year, he's gotten his opportunity and he's played fair. He's made some big hits. He's made a few plays. He's still not a playmaker, and that's ultimately my only real issue with him. Other than that, I think he's great. I think he's better off as depth than he is as a starter, but some other team may see differently. All right, Trey, what do you got? Good morning. Good morning to you too. Phil, Hutch will be healthy. Anzalone and Campbell are balling. let's talk about that real quick because we all kind of mention it a little bit about some of these guys, but we don't really. At least I haven't done a deep dive on them. But I'm going to say this to you: Anzalone probably deserves a lot more credit than the Lions faithful are giving, and not just me or you guys, but probably across all the media. He is playing at an incredibly high level this year. The only game I can really say he sucked at, in my opinion, was the Seattle game. He was just out of position a ton there. Now, in fairness to him, because I don't really remember that far back, all the film exactly, but some of it could have been just simply scheme principles that they were asking him to do things that he's just really not comfortable or good at doing. But since then, he's played fairly well. Even in the Ravens game, where I thought we got chewed up quite a bit on both sides of the ball, I'm not going to blame Anzalone and some of the other key players because, again, I think a lot of that was just our schemes weren't very well designed for that particular game. Is what it is. Jack Campbell, that is. I'll say this. You guys have heard me talk about this. He's progressing, and he's progressing nicely. If he was on a team with lesser linebacker talent around him, he would probably be having a lot more conversation about the type of season he's having. But because Barnes, Anzalone, we've had some pretty good linebacker play this year. I will say this: Derek Barnes, you're hearing his name a whole lot less, and why? Because of Campbell's progression this season. I think Barnes is playing very well. I think Campbell is starting to close the gap though on him, and Barnes is probably aware of that. Anzalone, he's lost some snaps, I'd say here and there, but probably more just rotational with Campbell. You could even say, Rodrigo's gotten a few on him, but all of those for the most part are just people you're giving a guy a break for a play or two. Bergs, what do you got? Hey, good morning, Dan and the Dew Crew. Good morning to you too. Hopefully you're having a great one, man. Hopefully you're having a little time to enjoy your weekend. All right, Phil Barnes, I hope Bugs plays. I don't get what's up with him. I'm not really sure what happened last game. If it was an injury or just they wanted to get Broderick Martin in there, that I can't answer. But I'm gonna guess Bugs isn't going anywhere this season unless he's done something that we're not privy to behind closed doors. Mike, I freaking hate the bye week. Yeah, man, you get in the rotation of, hey, this is what I'm doing this day, this is what I'm doing, the next day. It is what it is, though, man. The players, I would say we pretty much lucked out in when we get our bye because it is, it's not quite dead center in the middle of the season, but it's pretty close. And, the way we were getting all beat up, the players needed it. So, but I get your point, Mike. Phil, what do you get? T-shirt, Dan? You're wearing anything under the desk? Yeah, I'm wearing some basketball shorts. I got some basketball gear on, so I'm going to go do a little quick workout after the show before I go get my morning Mountain Dew, come back, get ready, and I got a bunch of house showings today. All right, what do we got, Brent? Good morning, Coach and Dew Crew. Good morning to you too, man. Not sure if it's true, but I heard Bugs gets benched every time he misses practice. You know anything about that? I haven't asked him a bunch about it, but I will say this. You miss a practice, that's probably not a good idea. So if he did miss something, that would explain why he didn't play against the last game against the Raiders. I would say this. If this is accurate, Brent, and something obviously happened at the start of the season, that's starting to become a trend. Bugs is a beloved player around here. But if he's doing, coming in out of shape, overweight for what the coaches and the team expectations are. And now if he missed the game, it'd be one thing. Okay, you had a family emergency or something like that pop up. I think everybody would get that situation. But if that's not the case, if you just, overslept or something, and that's not so good. So we'll see what shakes out. Next, I'll put this way. The next game would be the big tell to me. If he's back in the starting lineup, then whatever it wasn't probably that big a deal. But if he's not in the starting lineup or if he's inactive, that's probably a real big tell as to where the coaches are taking Bugs in the future. So just something to pay attention to. We'll all have to pay attention to. And what do you got? We are halfway through the season. What grades are you giving the rookies, coaches, GM, and the overall team? That's a great question there. All right. Let's do that. All right. So let's start. We'll just go down the list. We'll go with Gibbs. Gibbs, I'm going to give a a B. I mean, he's played very well, and it's not his fault. He's playing with another very good running back in Montgomery. So if he was just getting all the workload himself, yeah, I'd say there's these first 8 games, and it's gonna be hard for everybody to go, man, how can you not give him an A? You saw what he did against the Raiders. That's true, and we've seen bits and pieces of this evolving over the first several games of the season. But you've also seen some times where he ran the wrong route. Um, dropped a few passes. There was one against Seattle. I remember they called a real good screen, and he took his hand or eyes off the ball before he secured it. Otherwise, I want to say it was like in the fourth quarter, maybe the third quarter, where Goff got it to him. And if he would have caught it, I mean, I'm not saying he would have went 90 yards for a touchdown, but he would have went a whole far way because there was nobody really around him. And just typical things like that. You could see early on in the season, he wasn't hitting the holes, especially the A and B gap. So if you guys don't know what some of those terms are, so you have different gaps that quarterbacks or offensive coordinators will call out. Okay, so the gap between right guard and left guard, right guard and the center and left guard, etc. They're all given different terminology. So I'll just put it this way: between the tackles. So between the 3 linemen and the 2 guards in the center, he wasn't hitting those holes very well at all early in the season. He was, just basically outrunning blocks, and because of that, plays broke down. He was still effective. Don't get me wrong. He just wasn't as evolved or as experienced as he is now. The last couple games, I'd say the last 3 he's been out there, you can see he's calming down. He is progressing. He is developing. And then obviously the big breakout game against the Raiders. Everybody's understanding why they went after this guy. But I'm going to give him a B. Campbell, kind of the same thing. If he'd been playing on a team with lesser linebackers, I'd say his grade would probably be higher. His talk in the media, oh, yeah, I understand why they took this guy 18. Man, I can't believe they didn't take him at 12 or something like that. I think you'd see a lot of that. But I would say this: I'd give him a solid B minus. There's not a whole lot he does wrong out there, especially as the season has evolved and he's getting more experience. He's just not at the point where I think he's reacting without thinking. When I watch him, especially some of his footwork out there, a lot of what he's doing, he is thinking as he's doing it. And just like you, me, or whatever, if we have to stop and think, we slow down. So where I think Campbell's real progression has been is becoming as a pass rusher. I mean, you're seeing them playing him out wide and asking him to go out to the quarterback more and more. The problem with that is, since he's never really done this before, everything is having to be something he thinks about. You can see when he uses hands, his rip through move, his swim move, and stuff like that. It's just not fluid yet. Now, I think a year or 2 from now, it will be. He'll be doing this stuff without thinking, and I think he could be a monster to where everybody goes. 3 years from now, if he hits where I think he's going to go. 3 years from now, people are going to go, man, this was one of the greatest drafts ever. You got this, kid Gibbs who's running for, 13 billion yards every game. You got Campbell's getting 2 sacks a game. So I'll give him a solid B minus. As far as Laporta, A plus. There's just nothing. It's incredible watching. There's just nothing he doesn't do well already, not even quite halfway through his rookie year. He run blocks well. His route tree is good. His ability to come out of breaks, and you guys have heard me talk about it on this channel. My biggest problem with Hutchinson was when he came out of breaks, they were soft and so easy. Well, I shouldn't say easy, but it was easier for a DB to break on a pass underneath him because Hawk couldn't finish his breaks very well. And don't ask me why. I mean, to me, it all comes down to footwork, and he just wasn't sound with it nor disciplined enough with it. So Laporta, yeah, A plus. His future is, incredibly bright. Branch, I would say an A. And I'll say this: we haven't heard his name a lot in the last couple of games. Reason why, if you go back and watch the film, nobody's going at him. The first several games of the season prior to the ankle injury, teams were testing him. They're like, he's a rookie. We can beat this dude. Obviously, we know he did some damage to some teams. So the best respect you can say for a DB is how often do you hear Cam Sutton's name? How often do you hear Brian Branch's name? And the reason why is the same. They're not going after him. They're trying to pick on other people. Will Harris. I'm not going to name anybody, but yeah, so there's your answer. As far as the other guys, I'd say incomplete. Broderick Martin, you haven't seen much of. Scoresdale, you've seen a little bit, but not enough. I'd say to really be fair and give a grade. He does look like he's going to be pretty decent. And as far as everybody else, just not enough. But the coaches, to finish your question, Alan, I think they're progressing. You can still see what they don't know gets them in trouble. And yeah, I've talked about it on the channel before. So use Ben Johnson example. Last season, he comes out, nobody knows how to defend him. Hey, he's tearing everybody up. But you give coordinators and coaches a couple months where they're not having to worry about the next game, the next game, and the next game, where they can sit and just watch your film for a week or a couple weeks or a month straight. They're going to know all your tendencies. That's why very few offenses, which are so high-powered one season, can maintain that level because everybody gets familiar with you. Then one or two people start finding ways to defend some of your plays. Everybody starts copying it. One or two other coaches find something else. They're going to copy that. Before you know it, your offense gets bogged down. You've seen that at times this year. And I think, not to always point out the Ravens game, but Seattle and the Ravens had some similarities. They both found specific things that Ben Johnson didn't have answers for, and it took him a while to evolve to get past it. Him and Aaron Glenn are in the same boat. Aaron Glenn has definitely improved as a defensive coordinator. The problem is when he's caught off guard, just like Ben Johnson, with something he doesn't yet know the answer for, the team suffers for that game. So I would say the coaches, I'd give them a B, maybe a B plus all the way around. I mean, they're not screwing up a ton, but there are a couple of things in closer games, even though the Ravens game isn't close, that have bit them in the butt a little bit. All right, Mike, what do you got? Ryan Day's brother and Ryan Day are behind this. OSPU is a dirty group. Okay, you have to give me more information on that. I'm not sure where you're going with that. Sorry, man. Maybe it's too early. Maybe it's haven't had my due, but not sure where you're going with that one. Iceberg Slim, good morning, Dan, and the Dew Man. Good morning to you too, man. Going to be a good game. Just put a lot of heat on Herbert. Yeah, agree. And I think for the most part, I would really, like I talked about it earlier, Iceberg, I wouldn't have the ends collapse inside on stunts very often, maybe once in a while, just because I don't want Herbert having the ability to roll out wide and escape up the sideline or throw the sideline. Just because I think he is pretty decent at that. I think most of that pressure, if anything, you want people, I'd almost put an obvious passing down, say Hutchinson inside, along with whoever else on the other inside, and have whoever you put on the outside stunt in and allow those guys to go out wide. You'd ask those two guys who stunted in to now go at the quarterback or clog up those lanes. You could still leave some running lanes for Herbert, but everything would be up the V gaps, up the middle. So as long as you've got somebody over the top, he's fast, he's mobile. He's just not that mobile. All right, so yeah, but I'm with you. Got to put heat on him. All right, Phil, what do you got? With Gibbs getting more snaps, is money becoming less needed? No, I mean, they're going to need them both because they're both going to take shots on their bodies, and I think just want to share some of the workload just to help preserve both of them over the course of the season and get them ready for the postseason. It looks like sign language coach has. That's what coaches do, man. They talk with their hands, man. Dr. D, good morning. Good morning to you too, man. Man Bear, how y'all doing? I see what you did there. Donkey Kong. Super Bowl or bust? Absolutely. Now we know it's a show. Man Bear, what up? All right. Dr. D, Man Bear, when we get back to full strength, there's not a team we can't beat. I would agree. We match up fairly well. I mean, we've all watched other teams add parts, but they also added parts because of the lack of depth or injuries. There's a lot of reasons why they've added it. They did try to shore up some weaknesses, but the one thing you can say when you look at our drafts the last few years, and I thought this last year, it doesn't get talked about enough. Look at all the positions on the team. Did we draft a quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, safety? Yeah, you got them all. And that's why we've got some pretty good depth. Every year, we are filling in parts across the board. And I think that's something a lot of teams miss on. They overdraft certain positions, and I get, hey, you hit on a couple of them, great, but you've also ignored other spots. And you look at our depth, especially from this year's draft, all these guys can perform and have performed. The receiver depth, I guess you could say, we haven't seen those guys, but that's also just because some of the players ahead of them, there's just no spots for those guys, but they are there. Bergs, Anzalone, and Sutton have had solid years, very underrated. Yeah, they're not getting much press or hype, and I got to imagine them with Sutton, a lot of the reasons are just nobody's going after him. Same like with Brian Branch now, nobody's targeting him. So it's hard to make plays because that ball won't ever come near you. Anzalone, yeah, 100%. He's playing a lot better than I think anybody saw coming. Manberg, good morning. Dr. D, Detroit, haven't seen you in a while. I hope all is well. Yeah, he's been in here a little bit as of late. Dr. D, yeah, if you are missing practice, you don't belong here. Yeah, NFL, not for long. The old Jerry Glanville saying, yeah, but you're 100% right, man. Hopefully that's not the case with him, but we'll see what happens. All right, Ryan, what do you got? Greetings. Oops. Please explain the salary cap. If we have $8 million under the cap this year, what happens with the $8 million next year? Nothing. I mean, it's year to year. I mean, contracts carry over, yeah, but every contract has a different salary cap hit from one season to the next. So a lot of teams keep salaries like this in case they do run into a rash of injuries and they have to sign some veteran players or free agents or whatever that are out there because you need money to keep around for those new contracts if you bring them on. Gibbs a B. Yeah, I'm with you there on Dr. Detroit. He's performed well. It's just you can see he's had to evolve a little bit this season. Donkey Kong, if you hit the like button, JMO will catch the ball. Ooh, everybody hit the like button as fast as you can then. Can't Bill C. Okay. Branch B+. Any insight on JMO? I guess in what regard, Phil? I think he's progressing. I do think he's getting better. I do think he's got a ways to go, but you've heard me talk about it on here. Don't ask for major jumps. Ask for consistent growth over the course of the season. And as long as, he comes back this game and you can see he's getting, the next game against the Chargers a little bit better in his route trees, his route running, his catching. And then the next game, you're like, all right, he's getting a little bit better there. It's all going to add up. And by the end of the season or the playoffs, he'll be a fairly good target then. But yeah, he's got to keep developing. Dr. D, yeah, Laporta A+, yeah. It's hard to find any faults with him at this point. Dr. D, JMO has hands of stone and catches with his chest. He does. And that's something they're going to have to keep working on. It's not going to change overnight. Like I said, just small progressions with him. You could try to, in the off season, work on some things to push it even more. But for now, you're going to have to ride with him. Bill, JMO catches like he is receiving kicks. Let him play special teams. He's played a lot on there, so it's a possibility. I just don't think the coaching staff's going to put him out there unless they really don't see him being a part of the future because they don't want to risk him getting another injury. And I would think if he got another serious injury where he was out a while, that'd probably end his time in Detroit just because he's lost too much time to develop at that point. All right, what do you got, Phil? Are the Lions building JMO or misusing him? I think they're building him, but they're also exposing him to perhaps a little bit more than what he's had to do in other spots. I can't say I watched film on him when he was at Ohio State because I didn't. As far as Alabama, you look at a lot of his play calls, and I would say they're not the most difficult ones. And I didn't watch a ton on him there, but the ones I watched, a lot of what he was asked to do was not difficult stuff. He was just simply more athletic than the vast majority of people out there defending him. So he could just rely on his athleticism to supersede 90% of the defenders out there guarding him. Here, though, that's not the case as much. While he's still more athletic than most of the people, the gap has closed quite a bit. He can't just purely out-athletic most people. He has to have some nuances to him. And I think that's what's causing the growth curve. We can all come after him and everything, but it's not my approach. My approach is, hey, if I'm out there coaching, I don't care if you drop a pass or two. So if you drop 3 this week, you need to get to 2 next week. And it sucks having to go through that, but you need to keep that person emotionally engaged to where they're going to keep giving their best effort to improve. They start losing confidence themselves. It's no different than you or me or any other profession. You don't believe you can do it. You're probably not going to do it. And now you've lost the person. You've lost any potential for them to evolve. So I think he's going to be fine in time. It just may take a bit. All right, Manberg, Donovan Peoples-Jones should make an immediate impact. I can't wait to see how he does. Love Marvin Jones, but he just wasn't the same player as he was a few years ago. Yeah, found the time, man. That ain't no joke, man. I can tell you, getting a little older, man, getting into my 50s now. There's some things I can't do like I used to do. And some of it's like I don't go out and play some sports like basketball or anything anymore, man, just because that hurt when going to the hole or to the hoop, getting those shots in the legs or whatever. Yeah, I'm good, man. I can just sit and coach nowadays. But as far as Donovan Peoples-Jones goes, I 100% agree with you. He's going to be a vastly superior run blocker. He's going to give us a little bit more threat on the edge and in the red zone because he can physically do things most of the other guys in his locker room cannot do. All right. Could J-Mo be a Devin Hester? If so, do it. It's not a bad question, Ryan. I think he does have that kind of potential. I just think they're not going to give him the opportunity to go out there and get potentially hit. Because, again, if he's lost, basically his rookie year was lost because of the injury. We all can appreciate that. But it also means he came into this year, and now, man, you're a second-year player. You should be performing when really he's a rookie out there. And he's a rookie that just hasn't gotten a lot of reps or development in preseasons. So he's playing some catch-up, and I just don't think they want to risk him taking on another injury where he's going to fall even further behind his development. Zach, what do you got? Who's hurt, and they haven't had him on the injury list? Hutch, and it's going to come out at the end of the year. Hasn't had a sack since that Carolina game. What happened that game? Well, you remember he took the shot in the leg or the hip. I think a lot of it is, though, Zach, he's also faced Aaron Glenn's play design. So, you've heard me talk about the cone formation against a couple of different quarterbacks that were mobile, and they're just not asking guys to go after and get after the quarterback. They're asking them to basically just push linemen. So that's one factor. The other factor, if you watch the tape, so just use the Raiders game as an example because that's the one that's the most fresh in my mind. It's difficult taking on 2 or 3 blockers 99% of the plays. Most of the offensive setups I've watched, they just don't really have any respect for the rest of the guys that are going after the quarterback. Next game, if you don't want to pay attention to the football or what the team's doing, just watch the offense and defensive lines. Every snap, at least, again, just use the Raiders game. Go back and watch it. You got the tackle and a tight end coming down on him, or you've got the tackle and a guard coming at him. They're constantly sending 2 guys to block him, and you want to make a point why I wanted us to go out and get somebody opposite of him is because teams can't do that to everybody. You can't block double team 2 people because you got 4 people occupying 2 people. You got to send a couple guys out in routes, right, to get open. Plus, you got other people coming after the quarterback as well. So I think that's the biggest part is we've all talked about the fact that there's just not a consistent pass rush coming from other persons other than Hutchinson. And other teams have figured that out as well. So 2 guys, go get him. We'll see what happens with the rest of them. And unfortunately, until some other player evolves out there to come after him, that's probably what Hutch is facing for the foreseeable future. All right, Dr. D, I think he just can't catch well. They hit the kid, but he drops the ball. There's a lot of truth to that. He's got to get better with it, and I'm just hoping he does because if he does, you got a weapon. If he doesn't, he's probably gone in a year. All right, Zach, what do you got? Almost got the knee blown out. He hasn't had a sack since. Yeah, and again, I think a lot of it just comes down to what you're seeing. He's getting pressures on people. I mean, he's getting there, but he's got to get tired. And I do think he is somewhat dinged up as well because of the hip. You watched him in the Raiders game on the sidelines walking. He did have a little bit of a limp, but it's part of the NFL or football in general. You're going to get beat up. All right, Zach. Watch the Hutch. Got the INT. That guy who tagged him smashed his knee. Yeah, he smashed his side pretty well. My guess is, he's probably overall okay, but doesn't mean he's not perfect. It's probably affected his mobility a little bit. So hopefully the bye helps him out with that. Zach, he hasn't had the same burst. Go watch Monday night again, especially just doesn't look the same. Yeah, I mean he's getting beat up. He doesn't come out a ton of plays. He takes on multiple blockers. Yeah, the Carolina hit probably didn't help things out either, but give him time, man. He'll heal up, and hopefully get somebody to help pass rush with him. All right, Raymond, what do you got? Campbell's soup. Gotcha. T-Mac, I agree. Man Bear, yeah, J-Mo has a lot of work to do with his hands. Yeah, he's a work in progress, man. There's no other way to say it. T-Mac, I thought he was targeted by that player. Sorry about that, guys. Daughter texting me. I'll get to her in a second here. Zach, what do you got? He's very lucky he lifted that knee the second. It would have been, season ending. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, that could have been a nasty, nasty injury. Twin, what do you got? Hopefully the bye helps Hutch's leg. Yeah, I thought he looked like a Charlie horse hit, maybe a thigh bruise, maybe. And he may have pulled some ligaments, may have done some stuff like that. It's hard to say without seeing an MRI or anything like that. Even then, that's not really my forte. But having a bye week probably will help him quite a bit, man. All right, Zach. It was kind of dirty. Knew he didn't see him. Right. Yeah. It was a huge hit, man, and a bad one. And I think we all probably, when we watched it happen live, probably held our breath and we're hoping he was okay. And he probably did have some sort of impact on it, but it's part of the NFL, man. All right, T-Mac, it was kind of like speared his helmet into Hutch's knee. I was surprised the NFL didn't investigate it or hear that they did. Yeah, I don't think they went there with it. It just guy tried to get him on the ground. I hope it wasn't ill intent. Sometimes it happens, so fast live that it's hard to really always say. All right, Brent Sutton has been Brad's best free agent signing. I think, yeah, it'd be hard to disagree with that because he's been steady. Nobody goes after him. Yeah, he's performed incredibly well. Good call on that. T-Mac, Sutton is a beast. 100% agree. Coaching B, yeah, Dr. D, I would agree with you. It's been good. Hasn't been great. Hasn't been perfect. But it's been good enough to really not mess anything up too much. I couldn't always say that the first season or even early last season. I thought coaching got in the way a few times. Zach Sutton has been good, but he's lucky. Monday night, Adams got him badly twice on double moves. Jimmy G was just bad and missed him wide open for a touchdown and at least a big gain on the first one. 100% agree. I know there was one of them. Don't ask me which one, but I do remember there was one of them where Sutton was basically just caught looking in the backfield the entire game or that entire play. He just locked on and really had no idea that Adams had gone deep down the sideline until it obviously would have been too late. But sometimes you got to be lucky. And hey, when's the last time we could say, hey, the Lions are on the right side of the luck equation a whole lot? And this year, to be fair, the Raiders game and the Bucs game, we had some luck on our side. I guess that'd be a good way to put it. Zach, what do you got? Sutton has been good, but I think I just did that one. Yep. Alfred Anzalone has been our best free agent. He's been here every year, and yeah, he's consistently gotten better and better. And the coaches, the front office, do need some credit because when he first came on, he was kind of a meh player. He was probably here just because there was nobody else there. But Anzalone, he has improved every season. And I know even when we were signed him this offseason, there were a lot of fans kind of, scratching their head. But with that being said, he's performed well, and he's performing very well. Lauren, what do you got? Compared to the other NFL rooks, Gibbs B+, Campbell B+, Laporta A+, Branch B+, Hooker, ? Martin C-, Scoresdale A, Green C, Gibbs and Branch injuries hurt their grades, otherwise higher. Yeah, I think all that's fair, man. Yeah, you get no arguments out of me. Scoresdale, I will say this: he's definitely evolving and improving. And I know the Packers for years, maybe even decades, have used the approach that they're going to draft their offensive linemen, they're going to groom them over time. But you look at the vast majority of the guys over the last few decades, they've been mid to later round picks, and they've struck gold with it. And hopefully Scoresdale is another one of those, but obviously for us. So good call on all those, man. Real good. Zach, I pray to God they didn't play a soft zone against Herbert like against Seattle and Baltimore. Yeah. If they do, I get why they do it, but I also think you got to be a lot more aggressive. In both Seattle and Baltimore, they did the cone against the mobile quarterback. Didn't want him to get out running and stuff. But the only problem is, like you're pointing out, you're just going to, if you don't get pressure on that quarterback, they've just got far too long. And the zone breaks down the longer the play progresses because it has to keep expanding more and more. So, yeah, I'm with you there. Branch is an A+. Yep. Okay. Zach would use money in the Jamal role, more short yards and goal line, and sparingly open field. They may. We'll see what happens. But, either way, we're in a good situation having both those guys out there. Berg's still missing Jay Mommy. Well, maybe she's just not in today. Eduardo, this upcoming draft, we have to attack the defensive line. Yeah, I would say to talk about the draft, I would say, yeah, definitely defensive edge rusher and then cornerback. You got to get some good depth in there and maybe even some other parts. Other than that, maybe offensive line a little bit. So those would probably be my three biggest targets in the upcoming draft, but we're still a ways away from there. All right, Zach, what do you got? Whoa, Campbell B+, Scoresdale A-. That's high. Scoresdale, especially since he's been one of the lowest rated players on the team. Campbell has gotten better each week. Still has a lot of work in coverage. Campbell's evolving for sure, 100%. Scoresdale, it's just hard for me to grade him because, I just haven't watched enough on him. I do think he's improving. I do think he's going to be something. I want to give him more time before I say anything else on as far as a grade with him. All right, Phil, with Al, you're driving. What's the best vehicle on the road in your opinion? I used to love my Chevy Volt. Loved it to death. Drove it for years, at least for all. So I drive, I'd say about 50,000, maybe 60,000 miles a year on average between coaching and real estate and stuff. But I tell you, Matt, a deer took out last November. My Chevy Volt just smashed right into the passenger's door, and the car was toast, man. Every bag went off. So I started looking around for maybe a used car or whatever just to buy and, grind with because I do drive so much. Hate the idea of buying a new car. But everything, as you guys probably know, buying a used car was more expensive than buying a new car. So since it was lining up with my 50th birthday, I bought a Tesla. And I will tell you, man, it's been a great car. And I couldn't even tell you what gas prices are. My kid lives out on the East Coast, so I went out to go get her to bring her here for the summer. And it was like $75 to drive from Michigan to, let's just say, all the way to the ocean and back. And I couldn't believe it. People try to tell me that the charging stations, oh man, it'll take an hour to charge. I learned, that it doesn't. It takes probably like 15 minutes to charge your car. Most of the chargers are at basically gas stations or food, restaurant places. So you plug it in, maybe go hit the restroom, grab something quick to eat, get back out. You're back on the road. And I couldn't complain about it at all. Maybe not if you don't want to get Tesla, just maybe look into something, but it's been good to me. I'll say that. All right. Lamar, what do you got? Scoresdale played a great first game. Yeah, not easy to do what he did as a rookie. Yeah, I would agree with that, man. If you watch him, I get he played against, was it Atlanta when Skipper went down and then Nelson went down and they had to put him in at right tackle. And you could tell that game, yeah, he was a little overmatched. They had to start having the second person come over and help some of the blocking assignments. But to your point, this past game against the Raiders, once he got past the first quarter, and I'm sure that kid was nervous, he calmed down and he started blocking fairly well. He still got, bull rushed and, outpowered a couple times. You could just see he's still adapting to things. But overall, he didn't play horribly by any stretch. Salary cap carry over to the next year in some situations, but pretty rare ones. A lot of it comes down to the terminology within the contracts. So, man, we could do a 2-hour video on that, but we'll just say this: for the most part, it's year to year as far as your contracts. But if you redo a contract and displace some of that cap for prorated gains in the future, then yes, some of it does carry over. All right, Zach, what do you got? Scoresdale played solid, but he had a 40-something on PFF grade. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of ways to go, but again, at least for me as a coach, you just want to see solid improvement, and I thought throughout the game he did improve. All right, he played one of the worst D-lines in the league. Hey, you can only play the guys that are out there in front of you, right? Exactly spot on about JMO. You're playing the best of the best now. You're not going to blow by everyone. Yeah, and that's probably one of the adjustments. So, like when you go out and scout people, you can tell when somebody isn't as experienced with scouting because they go out there and say, man, this kid's doing this, look at the numbers, all that stuff. All that stuff's great. But you usually want to scout people when they're against similar ability levels, because that's when you start breaking things down. And if you can assess that those ability levels are towards the levels that they're going to face in whatever league they're at, now you've got something to really kind of dig your teeth into. It's sort of like watching in high school or middle school. There can be kids that are just so much more physically evolved than everyone around them. They look great. And then you hear people go, parents, but my kid, averaged this or that or whatever. Who cares, man? Everybody out there, if we put you up against a bunch of first graders, you should probably dominate, I would think. And that's kind of the same thing. So, and it's no disrespect to Jameson Williams, but what he's having to see now, that takes time for people to really kind of adapt and adjust. You are so used to everything going this particular way that now when that's been taken from you, you now have to go to door number 2 or 3. And I do think he's going to progress, or at least I sure do hope. It's just going to take time. All right, what do we got? Let's see. It takes half the season to learn G at the NFL level, especially under Fraley, compared to the other O-line rookies. He's an A-. Yeah, I'm not faulting you for it, man. There's nothing wrong with saying that. To me, I'm just saying incomplete just because I haven't seen enough out of him yet. But that doesn't mean you can't say he's an A. So I'm fine with it. JMO will have 3 more long TDs if Goff would throw the ball long. JMO lived at Alabama on the deep ball. Yeah, I would agree with that. There's been some where, even the one he had against the Bucks, you saw how Jameson Williams had to stop and come back to it. And some of that just, just a lack of repetitions between the two. They get to a lot of those timing patterns and such, or getting consistency is really done in the preseason, but they had limited time together. Hopefully over the bye, they're getting some solid reps at it. They're getting a little bit more familiar. But the short answer is it takes time, and Goff's going to have to learn to read that a little bit faster. So on a deep fly or a streak pattern or whatever you want to call it, he's going to have to realize when Jameson Williams starts to get even. So here's the defender, and Jameson's coming up here. That's your release point with him if you're throwing way down there, because Jameson can, against most safeties especially, he's just going to go right by him, and that's what he has done. So some of that, to your point, is on Goff. He's got to release it before, just a little bit sooner, and it may only be a half-second difference, but it's a half-second that gets Jameson to, here's again the safety or whoever's over the top, just run and go, basically catch it on the fly. When they get that down, now you've caused a real problem for the defense, because, man, oh, man, now if Jameson – he's got that guy just super backpedaling because he thinks Jameson's coming, and now he comes hits him with a comeback route on the play or a deep end. That's when you'll really see Jameson Williams explode in the league, sort of like a Tyreek Hill, because you watch the coverages on Hill. Everybody's got to play so far off him because they can't keep up with him, and that's why he just roasts dudes with turnarounds and comeback routes and stuff, because there's so much of a space and gap. I get we all want to get on Jameson Williams about what he's not currently doing, but I think we all also need to understand when that light goes on between, Goff and Jameson or whatever scenario it is, he's going to be damn hard to guard. And when that happens, how much different does it change all the coverages? And that's what I'm saying. Take your time. It's basically his rookie year. Let the kid develop. All right, Phil, you think Lions getting local Michigan players a strategy or coincidence? My guess is with the front office stuff, it's just coincidence. They seem to fit the mold a little bit, or the players lineup. I mean, Hutchinson, I think if we redrafted that draft, he's number 1 overall. So, I mean, some of the other guys, hey, it's just you're taking the best players. I'm going to guess based on Brad Holmes, from what I've been able to ascertain with him, he doesn't care where you come from. He doesn't care what your name is. Can you help the team? All right, guys, it's just about 56 minutes in. I'm going to get 1 or 2 more, and then it's time for me to go get the dew and then get ready for work. All right, what do you got? Fletch Lives, good morning from Central Florida. Go Lions. Go Gators. Good morning to you. Zach is hogging the chat. It's all right, man. It happens. Zach, I agree. He was somewhat beating double teams before that, and at times now he's not even getting close. Yeah, it's just going to take time, man. Yeah, and he's going to heal up. Some of it is also, if you watch on some plays, they're even sending a chipper at him. So give him time. But one thing I talked about earlier in the season, Zach, is if you don't take him out, if you don't get him some help, he is going to burn out and wear down and get tired. So they do have to address that, and I'm hoping they do. Phil, Hutch's bad luck has made him slower. Yeah, it's very possible with that. It's possible Hutch is getting too many reps. I agree with that. But it's also okay. Grit, agreed. All right, Zach, what do you got? I'm calling it now. Gibbs gets 150 yards rushing, and JMO gets 2 TDs long against the Chargers. Off play action. I'd be down with that. Mo has the same hit and ended his career. Yeah. All right. Sutton only has 84 PFF this season. It happens, man. But he's also not getting targeted. So only 84. Yep. Come back, Zach. How do you think NFL will solve the running back rookie salary? Boy, I don't really know what you can do, man. I get it's probably the worst position to be in because most of the guys drafted, probably half of them, aren't getting a second contract. But at the same time, you're gonna go back to the old system where you overpay people and they underproduce. I don't know. I'll leave that to wiser people than me. All right, 1 or 2 more. T-Mac, I think player pay is getting so high, it's causing the softer rules. They need to have balance. It could be. I mean, at least the rookie salaries are kind of capped now, where before, it was just a Wild West. Will Tom Kennedy, 85, ever get in a game? Kennedy, maybe, but I think with especially Donovan Peoples-Jones back, or I shouldn't say back, but now that he's a part of the team, Tom Kennedy's time is probably only going to be if somebody else really gets hurt. All right. Enjoy the bye. Exactly. Everybody. Phil, I heard that Tom Kennedy came to practice. Didn't hear they signed him. Did I miss it? I'd have to double check. I think they talked to him, got a contract for the practice squad, but whether or not that was signed, I couldn't tell you offhand. I agree with Zach Pierce on Adams beating Sutton. Who doesn't get beat by Adams? Yeah, every corner is going to get got at some point. It happens. All right, guys. It's 50, almost 59 minutes. So, yeah, I got to get hustling, get ready for the day. Breaking news happens. You guys know I'll try to get it out to you as quick as possible. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Trying to get to 4,300 by the time the Chargers and Lions take the field. Hit that like button, and hope you all have a great day. I'll see you all on the next Lions Talk Live. See you guys.